Hi, it's Sam here from Keep Trust Planning, and in this video today I'm going to talk to you about my 5 top tips to think about before you write your will. Now, we all know how important it is to write a will because we've been told, perhaps by our parents, perhaps by our grandparents, perhaps by other people in the family, how important it is to write a will. But why is it important? Well, here's my first reason that you should consider writing your will, and it's making sure that guardians are in place to look after your children. Guardians are probably the most important part of the will because it says who you would like to look after your children if you're no longer around to look after them yourself. Now, parents have parental responsibility for their children while they're alive, so you're only appointing your guardians if both partners pass away, and you need to think carefully about who it is that you would like to have the children. You need to think about where the children would like to live, who they would like to live with, and make sure that whoever it is that you appoint as a guardian likes the children and wants to be part of their life should something happen to the parents. You also need to consider whether there's enough money in the estate to bring up the children, and make sure that if there isn't, that there is perhaps a life policy in place to create some income there to bring up the children. So there's a lot to think about when it comes to choosing the guardians of your children. You might want to consider where the children would be schooled, and in order to keep the continuity going. And it's worth mentioning, of course, that you only need a guardian for your children up until the age of 18 when they become an adult. My second top tip is about your pets. Now, obviously the children are the most important things in our lives, but pets are very, very important too. And of course, many families these days have either cats or dogs or other pets that require love and care. And the interesting thing about pets is that within the law, they are treated as property. So unless we actually pass the pet in our will to somebody who's willing to look after that pet and take care of them long term, we risk that pet falling into the wrong hands and ultimately could very well be destroyed, and we certainly want to avoid that. So by writing a will, you can put in place a plan for your pet. You need to make sure that you find somebody who's willing to take the animal and that there's enough money in the estate to look after the long-term care of that pet. But the important thing, of course, is that without a will, you've got no say over where those pets will pass and where they will go, and we need to make sure that they go to a loving home. Next up is money. Now, money obviously is very important, and making sure that it passes in the right way to the right beneficiary is absolutely vital. And the interesting thing is, without a will, the rules of intestacy, which are the set of rules that are there to look after people who don't have a will, are not very good at passing money in the best way possible. Many people assume that their wife, husband or partner has a right to inherit the entire estate. This simply isn't true. And the rules of intestacy are slightly complicated, and I could make a whole new video about just the rules of intestacy. But for now, I'm just going to say that if you've got very clear ideas about how you would like your money to pass, you need to write a will. Now, of course, most people want to make sure that their partner is looked after first, and that everything is passed to that individual or for their benefit while they're still alive, and then to the children, perhaps equally in the future after both parties have died. But there's other things to think about. Perhaps there's some charitable donations that you would like to make. Again, unless you write a will, you're unable to make those sorts of donations in a legally binding way. And by using charitable clauses within a will, you can actually reduce your inheritance tax as well. So it's very sensible to think about how you can make charitable donations in your will in order to reduce the potential for inheritance tax later on. But the long and short of it is that unless you write a will, your money is not necessarily going to go to the people that you would like it to go to at the right time and in the right way. Appointment of executors. Now, it's quite often not the main thing that people think about before they write their will, who they would like to be the executors of it. Now, an executor is the person or persons who have been appointed to make sure that your wishes are carried out, that your debts are paid off, for example, and that the beneficiaries within the will get their inheritance at the right time and in the right way as specified in your will. Now, a lot of people do choose to get the assistance of a professional, a solicitor or other professional to help with the administration of the estate or take over the entire process themselves. And within your will, you can appoint a professional as an executor, either as your main executor, and there's pros and cons of doing that, or I would say probably more advisably as a reserve. So therefore, you've got the backup in place should your friends who you've also appointed to be executors choose to use a trusted professional as well. But the point is, without having an executor in place, you're losing control over the process of the estate administration. You're not making sure that the people who you trust the most are there to make the important decisions when the time comes, in the best interests of all involved. Protection of assets. Now, did you know that it is actually possible to use your will to protect your assets from such things as residential care costs, marriage after death, which is when a person is widowed and then they go on to marry somebody else and unfortunately they end up disinheriting their children. These are risks that are ever present in the modern age, and when we write a will, we can write a will in such a way that we protect our assets, so it creates a wonderful legacy for the future of our children, our grandchildren, and even generations yet to come. We do that by looking at trusts within the will. Now, a will trust is a whole new subject, and I'll make another video about it, but a will trust can do wonders within a will to protect your assets in a way that makes sure that what happens after you pass away happens in a way that protects your money, your property, going forward for the benefit of your spouse, your partner, your children, your grandchildren. And it's very important that when we sit down and talk about wills, that we look at the possibility of putting a trust in place. And that's it. Those are my top 5 tips for writing your will and the things that you need to think about before you write the will. Now, this is a brand new channel and I would love it if you were to subscribe and support it. I'm going to be releasing videos weekly that explain all about estate planning and how to write the best type of will utilising trusts so that it protects your assets for your family going forward while preserving your rights while you're still alive. So to support the channel, just click subscribe and perhaps the notification button so you'll be alerted whenever I post a new video. And please feel free to comment below any questions you've got. I'll be very happy to answer. I really hope you enjoyed this video.